Hello and welcome to Question Time from Channels TV's global headquarters, Lagos. I'm Gbenga Ashiru. Could anyone explain why only 350 Nigerians are responsible for 80% of 5.4 trillion naira debts? What's responsible for the huge toxic assets in Nigerian banks, and what needs to be done to stem this unpleasant tide? What's the Asset Management Company of Nigeria, AMCON, doing to ensure speedy debt recovery to put the nation's economy back on track? Channels TV was at the corporate headquarters of the AMCON in Abuja, and we met with the managing director of the company, Mr. Ahmed Kuru. You can join us in this interview.
We've been talking about national reawakening for quite some time. And when you look at successive governments and what has happened, during those periods, you find that quite a lot of government comes with different programs. But if you benchmark that against global best practice, you realize that the single most important enabler for development is human capital development, which means education. Now, one of the things that is missing in Nigeria is a sense of patriotism. Everybody thinks about himself. Every region thinks about their region. Every tribe thinks about their tribes. But if we are able to reorient, that is why I strongly believe that we should have like a Ministry of Reorientation to reorient our thought process.
So how's that playing out in your key mandate that's talking about asset recovery?
No. Now, anything we do, whether it is in asset recovery, whether it is in this interview, whether it is in asset creation, human capital play a major role. Your ability to motivate, your ability to energize, your ability to educate and carry your people up is all dependent on their orientation and their understanding of their national obligations. It's as simple as that. I believe that if we are all patriotic, regardless of what you do, if you are a cameraman, you will not wait for taxi to be sent to you, look for taxi and come.
It appears your mandate is running against all odds from the rhetorics coming from you. It seems you've been having a very challenging situation in trying to recover most of these assets. What has been the experience so far?
The experience is interesting and frustrating at the same time. Whatever we do here is affected by the state of the economy, is affected by the attitude of the obligors, and most importantly, is affected by their patriotic zeal in terms of meeting obligations. The most difficult thing I can tell you, or the most difficult assignment, is debt recovery. I always give this example that try and lend money to Kemi. After 1 month, go to Kemi and try to collect the money. Either she frowns her face, or she tells you are disturbing her, or after some time she takes it personal. Now, when you're talking about billions and billions of naira...
Is it because we don't have the right structure for debt recovery?
No, it is the attitude. Because you see, what is the structure for debt recovery more than please pay your obligation?
But
it's as simple as that.
Ordinarily, that's clearly preemptive. That yes. No one wants to pass with his or her money. Either you are seeing it as a potential investment base for you, but one expects that if there is something called collateral, or there is a structure to enforce and ensure that this person pays back the loan.
No, there are two things. Number one, like I said, orientation and attitude. What we see here, you don't see it in other climes. If in either the European or the Western world.
Don't you think that's because there's the right structure?
No, it's not the structure, it's the attitude. So there's a structure. The structure is that you've gone to a bank, you've taken a loan. There are conditions. You have an offer letter. The offer letter stipulates the condition. The offer letter stipulates the default obligations. If you are not able to pay, the offer letter stipulates that I will have recourse to the asset. I will take the asset. I will sell the asset. All are stipulated in the letter. The day that the obligor refused to pay, that is when you start seeing that attitude that is not positive, because he feels he will not pay, or some people even take the loan without the intention of paying in the first instance.
Actually, most of the operations of AMCON, it's really not so clear to the wider public as that. Where does AMCON comes in a business investment?
No, you see, AMCON is not in a business of providing water or roads or education. We're a debt recovery agency. So strategically, people are not, it's not something that everybody should know what we are doing. The people that should know what we are doing.
The point I'm bringing in, the point I'm drawing is that does AMCON play a part at accessing the loans?
No, AMCON is an intervention agency. Due to the global crisis of 2008-2009, governments all over the world set up structure to help businesses to come out of that situation. And in Nigeria, we created this Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. What they did was they purchased non-performing loans. AMCON is not a lending agency. However, the initial concept was that if I purchase a loan and there is a possibility that I could restructure that loan, put in a little capital and both human and financial, I may be able to help the business to come out of the financial situation. That was AMCON, but AMCON is not a lending agency.
Doesn't that put AMCON in a very tight role, considering the fact that you're being drafted in as an undertaker to clear the mess which you were not part of? And one would say that the deed is already being done. So what are those strategies you do regularly deploy in ensuring that most of these debts are recovered?
Okay, number one, we are not put in a tightrope to the extent that was why the SNG was set up. So if this agency was set up, if an agency is set up primarily to prepare people for burial, like mortuary services, you can't say you are responsible for people dying. But you've been created to set up a mortuary, services.
What's your asset recovery strategy? Your debt recovery strategy? What's
Okay, we deploy so many strategies. First of all, our first point of call is to sit down with the obligor to see whether we can help that obligor. Is there an opportunity that we can restructure? We can talk to some commercial banks. We can even sometimes at the initial stage put a little money, bring some human capital to help the business. If we can't do that, that is always our first approach. Secondly, if we cannot do that, then we look at within your own structure, if you have other businesses that are running, will you be able to, from your other businesses, pay back this debt? If you are not able to do that, then we'll go for the third. We'll tell you now, please, you took this loan under certain conditions. The conditions stipulate that you are supposed to bring certain assets. So please give us these assets so that we can sell it and pay our obligation, because AMCON also borrowed money to pay the bank to buy these loans. So we have to sell that collateral. Now, if after negotiating with you, it is very obvious that you are not intending to pay, now we have recourse to the court. Then we go to the court, and then through the court order, we take over your property or your business. But that is always the last point.
But the allegation out there by the public is that AMCON is always interested, they are always quick, regardless of following the due process, even neglecting court orders to take over many businesses. Okay. How do you respond to this?
No, my response to it is that there is this allegation that journalists are not friendly, that they like to harass people. But it's an allegation. It's left for journalists to prove that.
Are you not begging the question now?
No, I'll answer your question. No, I'll go back to
the focus is on AMCON.
No. What I want to say is that you don't operate on the basis of allegation. I can tell you that since I've been here, and even before I came here, AMCON has never gone to take over a business without a court order. We are not a security agency. We don't have a force. What we have here are financial experts like bankers. So are they the ones that will go and take over a property by force? If you see AMCON take over any property, Benga, go and investigate. You see a court order, valid court order. I told you before in my one of our engagements with you, we are guided by 3 principles in whatever we do here. Number 1, fear of God. Because ultimately, whatever we do here, at the end of the day, we are going to answer to God, regardless of what mandate we are carrying out. We have fear of God. Number two, and most important, the national interest. Whatever we do here, what is in the national interest? And number 3, the rule of law. Now, if you have fear of God, you not go and do something contrary to the rule of law because there are guidance through which you operate. There is no way, and I stand to be corrected, where Amcon has gone over to take over a property, because you can't even take over a property without police and court officials. And you can't do that without a court order. No policeman will follow you to take over a property without a valid court order. So all these are allegations. However, in our operations, we deal with people that have newspapers and television stations. So obviously, sometimes they throw out those issues that Amcon is there to take over assets forcefully. We were not there when you borrowed the money. We were not there when you refused to pay the money. We were only created to collect the money. And by the grace of God, we'll collect it one way or the other. Allegation or no allegation. So the most important thing is that people must come and pay.